To be continued after this commercial break. Have you been looking for mouth-breathing content to consume while you rot in your chair? Well, do we have the perfect content for you. Introducing Jeffo on Twitch. Here you can get a peek behind the curtains and see what Jeffo does when he's not making content, which is sit on his ass and play video games. Haven't tuned in yet? We'll take a look at the content you've been missing out on.
I don't know why, but having this below my feet, like, pisses me off. I have no idea why.
Breathtaking content, am I right? Well, you could see that live. What are you waiting for? And turn notifications on so you never miss a live stream. And also because Jeffo has yet to make a schedule for live streams. Thank you for listening. Back to your scheduled programming now.
Imagine with me, if you will, for a minute. The year is 2014, Five Nights at Freddy's is the biggest thing on the internet, and the third game is about to come out. Game theories are saving grace when it comes to trying to figure out what the hell is going on with these games, and on the other end of the spectrum, Markiplier is known as the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. And even with game theory helping us, there was still one big question on everybody's mind. Who the hell is this? People have so far speculated that this could be Phone Guy, because the thing in his hand looks like a phone, or this could be the killer that we read about in the newspapers in FNAF 1. But even at this early in the series, we had already figured out that nothing was certain when it came to this lore. And the only name we had for him at this time was Purple Guy. Whoever he was, we knew that he was a very bad man, and that he was very important to the story. Everybody was scrambling to get their Five Nights at Freddy's 2 gameplays out when people started noticing that every now and then when you die in the game, you would get a minigame. A little 8-bit 80s Nintendo style arcade game that seemed innocent at first, but something else was going on here. We'd see 8-bit sprites that looked like dead kids and blood on the ground, and every now and then there was an extremely rare chance that a purple man would run up to you in the Save the minigame. And although we would speculate on who this person might be, it didn't make sense that there was another 2 sprites in these minigames that also looked like him. But not quite. Not only was one of the other 2 pinkish, but they also looked completely different than the original sprite. We had no idea if this was one person or multiple people doing very bad things. One of the minigames depicting a child outside of a pizzeria where the purple man drives up, kills the child, and leaves. In another minigame titled Foxy Go Go Go, you play as Foxy and your job is to run across the room and give presents to children. You do this a few times, but then a pinkish purple guy pops up, looking completely different than the other sprite, and all of a sudden all 5 children that you were supposed to give presents to have been murdered. We had no idea if this was the same person or separate people. Eventually, from general consensus, we had come to the conclusion that it was one person. That being because there was only one killer within the newspaper clippings. It was around this time when the third game had came out. And in Markiplier's own words,
"My name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's 3. This might be the most hyped game in the history of gaming, and it might totally be worth it because just compared to the last 2 games, going into it, I'm actually a little bit nervous just because of the unknown factor. There's always been an unknown factor whenever I launch into these games, and that twitchy bunny right there isn't helping very much, so I'm gonna get into this and I'm gonna play it."
Leading up to the release of the game, we had gotten this teaser. Reading it, as you can obviously see, it says, "I am still here." We had no idea what that could possibly mean. Who is still there, and why are they there, and who is this just in general? Up until this point, I don't believe we had ever seen or even heard of Spring Bonnie. The closest we ever got to hearing about him was in the FNAF 2 Night 6 phone call, where Phone Guy says,
"The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right."
So obviously we did not think this was Spring Bonnie. What we had seen is Fredbear, and because this looks like an older yellow and kind of like Fredbear, we thought it was Fredbear. So immediately everybody had jumped out of their seats to reverse the image and brighten it up and see if we can make it look like Fredbear, but eventually we kind of figured out that this wasn't Fredbear. This was someone else. We got a step closer to understanding who he was with the trailer.
He will come back, he always does, and we have a place for him. At this point, all theories about him had just gone out the window, and we really just had to be patient until somebody finished the game so we could maybe get answers about who this is. So at this point, the third game had come out, and everybody had rushed to get their gameplays out. It was through this that we started hearing phone calls talking about spring lock suits.
Hello. For today's lesson, we will be continuing our training on proper suit handling techniques. When using an animatronic as a suit, please ensure that the animatronic parts are tightly compressed and fastened by the spring locks located around the inside of the suit. It may take a few moments to position your head and torso between these parts in a manner where you can move and speak. Try not to nudge or press against any of the spring locks inside the suit. Do not touch the spring locks at any time. Do not breathe on the spring locks, as moisture may loosen them and cause them to break loose. In the case that the spring locks come loose while you are wearing a suit, please try to maneuver away from populated areas before bleeding out, as to not ruin the customer experience. As always, if there is ever an emergency, please go to the designated safe room. Every location is built with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layouts programmed into the animatronics or security systems. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera. As always, remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
As we were getting educated on what spring lock suits were, we had found a cryptic Steam post by Scott Coffin himself, where somehow people were able to reverse engineer a code hidden within the Steam post, and the code spelled out, "My name is Springtrap." So now we had a name, we had a model, we knew it wasn't Fredbear, so what are the spring locks, and why is this person so important where he always comes back and we now have a place for him? What is the origins of this weird rotten bunny? Well, the puzzle pieces would start fitting together very soon.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome back to Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Now the full game has been released and a lot of secrets are already being discovered about the game, but there's one thing in particular that I want you guys to see before we move on to the third night, and that's these 3 images that I'm showing right now. These are secret screens that pop up when some people rarely start the game, and it's very weird to see this because this kind of leads into what the phone guy was saying on his archival footage that was found by the scavenging guy. And apparently this guy's name is Springtrap, so that connects because the phone guy introduced a new concept that was never heard of before. The fact that these animatronic suits can be worn, and that they're a hybrid suit. I'll get more on that later.
So maybe the significance of Phone Guy talking about the spring lock suits and the significance of Springtrap were tied together. Whoever this was, they were a victim of a spring lock failure, clearly. But it's also clear by the phone calls that there was multiple victims when it came to spring lock failures. Why was this one so important? Well, that would be tied with another mystery within this game. Remember how we talked about the mini games earlier in FNAF 2? Well, they were back. The first ones were little cryptic pieces of lore. Meanwhile, this one had a pattern. And it wouldn't be by chance this time either. It would be every single time you beat a night. You would spawn in as Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, or Foxy depending on the night you beat in the FNAF 1 location. And Shadow Freddy from FNAF 2 would pop up and ask you to follow him. You were forced to follow him and eventually you were taken to a room that you couldn't access. We would eventually figure out that this was the safe room, judging by the phone call in FNAF 3, where it says that this room, the safe room, is invisible to animatronics, meaning they can't access it. You would try a few times, and then this would happen.
Is that thunder? Is this place decrepit? There's so many boarded up places. Those are error. Okay. Alright then. Guess I can't go that way for some what the hell? Purple guy!
Purple Guy was back, and although we knew nothing about him, we knew that if he's going to be in 3 different games, then he is going to be a main protagonist. Now, I'm not going to get into the logistics of why Purple Guy was destroying the animatronics or anything like that, because we would be here for hours. This would just be another FNAF story video if we were doing that. So I'll skip to the juicy part. Remember, this entire time, we are being educated on Purple Guy, Springlock suits, and who Springtrap is. We know that Springtrap is a Springlock failure victim, but we don't know who the person inside of him is
is, and we don't know why he is attacking us. We also know that Purple Guy is responsible for the death of at least 5 children at this time. So it goes without saying that we wanted this dude dead. As I said before, with each night that you beat, you would be put in one of those mini games where you would have to follow Shadow Freddy into the safe room and then you would be destroyed. Every time that you would go into that area as another animatronic, you would see the animatronic that you played before in pieces laying on the ground because Purple Guy had destroyed them. You would do this all the way up until the 5th night. You weren't playing as an animatronic, you were playing as a spirit. I said this in my FNAF story video and I'll say it again. The way that these animatronic suits within this universe work is pretty close to like a genie in a bottle. If you die inside or even around an animatronic suit, your spirit would most likely possess that suit and you could not get out until somebody willingly breaks the suit. Since William had destroyed the suits of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, the spirits were let free. Purple Guy, understandably not knowing the science behind the spirits in this universe, did not know that. So when he goes back to the location that most likely destroyed the suit of Golden Freddy, he is met with spirits who attack him. He runs into the safe room, but because they are not animatronics anymore, they are able to access it. And there is a yellow suit in the back room. He most likely knows about the trick we used within FNAF 2, where we would put on a Freddy mask to confuse the animatronics. But something was different about this suit. It was a yellow rabbit, like Springtrap is. So as I said, he would test his luck and he would slip on the suit. He would laugh and cackle and be cocky about the entire situation, though he was most likely still terrified of the spirits. But if you had listened to the FNAF 3 phone call that I showed you earlier, you would know that any kind of moisture is a risk to anybody wearing a spring-lock suit, because it was a risk that the spring locks would snap and impale the wearer. So when he slips on the suit...
What do you got for me? Can I actually go through? Oh! Hey! What the hell are you doing? What do I do? You look a little surprised, but there's a bunny. There's, Springtrap. You look oh! Oh, it's a minigame. I'm gonna force you in that suit, you bitch! You get in that goddamn suit! I will goddamn make you go in that goddamn Oh, that's not good. Uh-oh. You know you laugh at me! Hey! There you go! It was Purple Guy. What? Bad ending? What do you mean bad ending?
Purple Guy is Springtrap. So now, at this point, everything had really fallen into place. You could go back and get the good ending by giving children cake at the end of the game, but it would still turn out the same way. Purple Guy becoming Springtrap. This was unavoidable. We would learn from later sources that Purple Guy was spring-locked within the mid-90s. And as you must know, FNAF 3 takes place in Fazbear's Frights, a haunted house dedicated to the hauntings of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This haunted house is made in 2023, which is why Phone Dude in the Night 2 phone call of FNAF 3 says this.
I have an even better surprise for you. And you're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one. Gotta go, man. Well, look, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure you'll see it. Okay, I'll leave you with some of this great audio that I found. Talk to you later, man.
This is why when we find Springtrap, he is rotted and old and decayed. And not only has he been trapped in that suit, but he has been trapped in that one safe room for over 30 years, forced to permanently take on the form that he had used to kill those children all those years ago. Not only does Five Nights at Freddy's 3 do a phenomenal job when it comes to wrapping up an introduction on how William Afton becomes Springtrap. By the way, everybody knows his name is William Afton. I'm just getting tired of saying Purple Guy. But he also has one of the most beautiful endings I've ever seen. And no, we're not talking about Steelwall. I'm not doing it. And his ending comes at the hands of Henry Emily. Now, I know I explained all of this in my FNAF story video, but again, it has to do with why Springtrap is a perfect killer, so here we go. William Afton and Henry Emily were business partners in the early 70s. They had made Fazbear Entertainment, and William would be responsible for making the financial decisions of the company, while Henry was the one who made the robots. Henry and William would come up with the idea of the spring-lock suits, but after a tragic incident in 1983, where William's son Evan, or David, I'm not really sure, was killed, and Evan would end up possessing the Fredbear animatronic, William would go insane trying to find out what happened to his his child, so he would do experiments by kidnapping kids, killing them, and putting their bodies into suits, which is where the 5 missing children's incident occurs. Henry kicks him out of the company for separate reasons, but because of the pent-up grief and aggression that William already has, he would kill Henry's one daughter named Charlie. As you know, William would later be spring-locked and forced to rot in an abandoned pizzeria for 30 years, and that is when we first meet him in FNAF 3. William Afton would wear his Spring Bonnie suit while he killed those children, and what makes him such a good villain is that now he is forced to rot in a prison of his own creation, and not only is that creation one of his own, but is the one he wore to commit his heinous crimes. And there are so many mistakes that William makes along the way. There are so many times where he could have gotten help and could have became a better person, but he just didn't. He just faded further and further and further into darkness after his first son died. Now, one of the most unspoken of characters within the entire series is William Afton's wife. We literally know nothing about her, but a lot of people think William actually killed his wife. Maybe it was just an act of aggression, maybe it was an accident, or maybe she figured out about the kids and he couldn't risk being caught. But if she is dead, it is the general consensus that she possesses Ballora, an animatronic within Sister Location. Ballora is a singing ballerina, and one of the songs that she sings definitely sounds like a wife grieving over the flaws of her husband.
Why do you hide inside your walls when there is music in my halls? All I see is an empty room, no more joy, an empty tomb. It's so good to sing all day, to dance, to spin, to fly away. Is someone there? Is it time for the show? I can hear someone creeping through my room. Perhaps not.
Also, by the way, whoever voices Ballora, your voice, hot. Regardless, it's never confirmed whether William's wife is Ballora or not, but I don't think it's not safe to assume so, and it definitely, so far at least, makes sense when it comes to Ballora's character. William's entire life crashes over the death of his one son. He betrays his best friend after his best friend and him split apart. Although he is never caught by authorities for killing children, he is basically caught by himself and forced to rot in a prison for multiple years. His home in FNAF 3 is Fazbear's Fright, where he is trapped in a building full of his own memories. Drawings of the animatronic characters, music playing from the old pizzerias, heads of animatronics he made. Constantly reminded of his own life that he willingly burned to the ground. And speaking of burning to the ground, in FNAF 3 you play as Michael Afton, William Afton's oldest son, who is also somewhat responsible for the bite of 83, which is obviously Evan's death. Now obviously, if you know anything about the FNAF lore, you would know that the bite of 83 was an accident. Michael is not a murderer, but he does know that William, his father, is a murderer, and he wants to hunt him down, just like William is doing to him. He finds William within Fazbear's Frights, obviously, and that is where FNAF 3 takes place. At the end of the work week, he decides he is going to kill William by lighting the entire building on fire.
I beat Nightmare Mode in 17 minutes and 55 seconds. It burns! It burns! Freddy Fazbear's Fright burns to the ground. A new local attraction based on an ancient pizzeria chain burned down overnight. Authorities have not ruled out foul play, but at the moment it seems to have been caused by faulty wiring. Very little was found at the scene. A few items were salvaged. Will be sold at public auction. Yes!
Michael burns Fazbear's Frights to the ground, along with Springtrap, but if you know anything about Springtrap or William Afton in general, you would know that he always comes back, and if you brighten up the image on the newspaper, you get this. Springtrap is still alive. He escapes Fazbear's Frights, and while he's been trapped in safe rooms and haunted houses for 30 years, his victims, as well as the baby animatronic, which is possessed by his own daughter, and Charlie, Henry's daughter, who is possessing the puppet, has been running around rampant. Henry Emily, who has just been grieving the death of his daughter alone for all these years, has had enough. Again, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and the details of this, go watch my freaking FNAF story video, because I cannot be doing that again. William, after being burned out of the Fazbear's Frights building, is again running around rampant, and Henry knows how to lure him back in. build another restaurant, which is where we get to Pizzeria Simulator. Henry and Michael team up. Henry hires Michael to be the night guard, and they're both gonna burn down the freaking building again, but this time it's gonna be different. They're going to truly trap Springtrap down in that place. Elizabeth, or Baby, William's daughter, has teamed up with William. He's going to try to kill Michael, and so is she. She has turned just as evil as her father. She gives a monologue about how she's going to kill Michael before Henry cuts her off and lights the entire building on fire. And obviously I'm not going to, show Henry's entire speech because I already did that in the FNAF story video, but I will show the ending of it where he talks directly to William because it's one of the coldest lines I've ever heard in my entire life, and it is literally just tradition to show that shit because it's so good.
For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend.
And that is the story of Springtrap. This is why Springtrap was made to be perfect. Again, we're not talking about Stillwell. I don't give a shit. He didn't come back. This isn't him crawling out of a pod. Bullshit. No. I want to thank everybody who's been just super supportive when it comes to the channel within the past few days. Or not even few days, I guess it's been a couple of weeks now. We are crazy growing, thousands of views, hundreds of subscribers, and boys, please, let's see if we can get 1K before the end of the year. I know we can do that shit. It really has been so nice to get all this love, and I'm working on more videos. I'm having a professional artist do PNG work, for like what kind of avatar I want, what kind of profile photo. So, I mean, shit's getting real. And as you saw in the very intro of this video, I have a Twitch, so you can go follow that. My TikTok and my Instagram is also in the description. It'd also be really cool if you could follow that. But regardless, thank you for watching, and goodbye.